You love Alex Ball.
Yeah, I was just saying I love Alex Ball's stuff. He's actually a very talented musician, but he's interesting. His demos are his sort of like bios are so good. And the first one I saw was he did one on Sequential. He's done one on Roland. He recently did one on Korg that was actually very interesting.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, he's cool. Very cool cat.
Yep, it was good. He's also done the user manuals for the S2400.
That's right. He did indeed.
And they're very good, and he's doing a new round of them.
And he helped with the development of that as well, right?
Yeah, he's even. Well, I don't know about development, but he was consulted as sort of like an early beta tester. But he's doing a new round of even better videos on the updated firmware for it. So that's also
cool. So
it's it's good.
Have you updated, Jeff? I have not updated mine yet.
I have. I mean, I have the latest firmware, but they haven't. I don't think they've updated it past the February firmware.
Oh, okay. So the beta stuff. Okay.
But you could update it with some Circles drum samples, which are 40% off until Halloween.
Wait, what's that you say? Did you say Circles drum samples is doing 40% off sale?
I know, it's crazy.
Until Halloween? Spooky.
Circles drum samples are really good. They are Circles, Gold Baby, and samples from Mars are like by far my favorites. And Drum Broker does some good stuff too, but Circles is really cool because they do live drums. Right. Gold Baby does like real wonky drum machines, especially with like a hip hop flavor. And Samples from Mars is sort of neutral tonality drum machines, like really just well processed. Circles is great.
So Circles is having what they're calling their dead sale. So they have what they call their dead libraries, and those are what are 40% off right now. They're generally around $45, $45. So you're getting about getting a pretty good deal on these, $24, that kind of thing. And it's just a lot of like dampened drums and stuff like that.
They're totally dead. Like all you get is like the transient in the body and like no tail. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So though it's live drums and some people don't want live drums, it's still something. They still sound weird enough that you can have some fun with that.
Yeah, I have their 1985 kit, which I really like, and I also have the one that they call their garage kit. And the garage one is super weird. Like some of the samples on it are like kicking an old garage door. Oh yeah. But it's all these like really bad drums played in a garage. It's a really weird concept, but they're good. They're interesting. I've had a lot of fun with them.
That's awesome. And yeah, 40% off to Halloween's pretty good as far as that's concerned. Do you know what else is really good? Lindrums.
Martian Lindrum.
Italian.
Enough for
Italian
ministry.
Lindrums.
It's Fragile.
And Sample from Mars is just released and has on sale the what they're calling the Italian Lindrum sample collection. Usually $30, on sale right now for $20. And it's based on the Viscount R64. Which this is a weird thing.
Weird.
Justin, you brought this up, didn't you?
Yeah, I actually bought it because I love I think the Bohm or Bame, I know how it's pronounced, is a German Lindrum too. That's popular, but I mean, to me, like it's kind of this sort of like Circles. Like for me, I'm kind of an Italo disco fan, mostly towards the horror sort of Italo disco, but like. To me, like this Italian stuff is just always so fun and weird. And I think Alex Ball actually went to one of the Sense museums in Italy recently and played at Elka and did all kinds of fun stuff. But what's cool about this one is, it's actually analog too, I guess. It's kind of weird. Like, so it's kind of a hybrid of PCM and analog circuitry. It's it's oddball, but it sounds cool. And yeah, for $19, if you're into weird drum machines, and I immediately, of course, dropped it into the
of course
2400. Because what else would
because I'm looking at this, I'm like, wow, this would be great for a 2400. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds really cool and weird, and I really love that sort of crunchy sort of PCM sound, and but it can get a little samey if you're not careful.
That's awesome. Jeff, how many 2400s do you have now? 3? 8?
How many do I currently have? One.
Yeah, how many do you have on order?
I do have a second one on order.
Okay, and you're going to be getting a third one after that one shows up?
I don't know. I probably think that 2 is as many as I can do until they add foot switch options for them, because I can only operate 2 at once.
Yeah. Yeah, well.
What you got to do is you got to get them to mate.
Exactly.
You've got all those jacks in the back. It might work. I don't know. I could try.
Yeah.
Just need a cable.
No, I think 2 is enough.
You say that until you get them.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that I could be a fool and get a third one, but no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not
Let's
possible.
not do that.
The 2 of those, and then I have the SP404 Mark II, which I really, really like and would for sure recommend to anyone. It has like a couple of really minor drawbacks, but they're super minor, and it's really
And I
wonderful.
understand that those things are probably just like bug fixing, fixable kind of things.
The biggest thing that I dislike actually about the Mark II 404 is that it's actually, and I probably wouldn't actually dislike this unless I had never had an SX, which I had for a long time, but the SX, just, you could load the SD card onto your computer and it would just like let you see the WAV files.
Oh, yeah.
And you could just put them in places in the folders. The Mark II doesn't do that.
Oh.
You have to use the Roland software for it, and the software for it I don't like very much, and I think I understand why they did it this way. I don't think it's like, strictly speaking, just a weird bad decision they made. The original ones didn't have multiple projects, so you had 10 banks of sounds, and each sound bank had 12 pads, so you had 120 sounds of approximately any length on them. And this one has 10 banks of 16 pads, so you get 160 sounds, but you also have 16 projects, so you can... The idea of the structure there doesn't work as much, and it also has this step sequencer that, like, I think they just made the guts of it a lot more complicated, and so therefore just like storing samples on it didn't work in the same way. Like, they could have chosen to do it.
Probably doesn't work well in like the nested folder kind of idea that most user interfaces are in computers.
That's my take.
That makes sense.
So you know, like for instance, like the 2400 has an onboard memory that has a bunch of stuff stored on it, and that's how it handles like I guess like wayfinding. So when you have a directory and a folder or whatever, it doesn't really need anything. It's just looking for things in places, and it works better. But the 404 doesn't seem to be able to do that. So I wish they didn't use that software, but that's it. So I think the 2 of those and the 404 is like probably about all I need.
So Actitect wants to know why you want why you have 2 1200s. Oh, and Turbine Shockwave, thank you for the subscription. Appreciate it.
Reason number 1, I am a crazy person, and that's not a small component here. So I don't know how much anybody knows about the 2400 other than Justin, but the idea here on the 2400 is that you have these things that are MIDI maps and track maps. And the MIDI maps and track maps are essentially files that you create and save on the system. And they have various kind of like definitions for how the system is supposed to operate. Okay. So you have 4 sample banks, each with 8 banks of samples in it. And you also have a bunch of MIDI banks if you want them. But the sample banks can be chromatic samples, so like single cycle or chromatic chromatically playable samples. They can be drums, or they can just be phrase samples. And you can play any of them in any component, but the system works with them differently and allows you to do different things depending on what your setup is. It's my primary drum machine, and I love it as a drum machine, and I would like to be able to have one sitting over here like I have that is every drum machine ever, which is to say it's a Lindrum and a DMX, and that's all that it ever is, because that's all that it ever needs to be. And then another one that I use like a SP1200 and make beats and do composition on it. The reason that I want to is partially because it does serve as sort of a backup if anything ever happened to one of them, but also because that track and samples map thing is like, it's not a great process to change them back and forth.
Oh, okay. So you're lazy.
Yes. And also a crazy person.
And
I started
crazy
with the most important component. Hayes Anderson says, yes, that's what I wanted my Volca sample to be. Yeah, so the S2400 is very good at being every drum machine.
So another reason that you had given is that there's going to be a suspension of production of S2400s.
There is.
So you want to get in while the getting is good.
Because they only do limited
and so
runs.
If I decide I
them.
don't want a second one, it'll be easy to shift.
Yeah, that's true. What I don't recommend for anything, however, except for you to buy, is this thing. It's my OPZ. It's terrible. You should buy it from me.
Right now, on the stream. Do an
I
auction.
should just set up an auction real quick.
Your cognitive dissonance marketing is wonderful.
Do you hate
This is what
yourself
they call nagging.
like I do?
If you hate yourself but want to put some drums on something and also enjoy suffering, you could buy this 1010 Music Razzmatazz.
Oh yes, that's right. If you like really tiny screens and having to use a pencil to do everything, the 1010 Music Razzmatazz. This is another one of these nano box devices that they've put out. Razzmatazz is what it is called. You have to say it with the rolling R's. If you can't roll your R's, which I know a number of people who can't roll their R's, that means you're not allowed to own this. I'm sorry, that's the rules. If you can't roll your R's, you can't own Razzmatazz. Razzmatazz.
I can only do it in a
Like
weird
you do,
way.
yours is more guttural.
Super creepy. Yeah.
If you can do the guttural R, then you're good. You're good for French
But I
and
can also
German.
only do it sometimes.
You gotta get like a lot of orange juice in
And then
there.
it takes a lot of like Rammstein.
Rammstein.
Kinder
Razzmatazz.
Schnatt.
So yeah, it's pink as fuck.
It really is.
It's shockingly pink. This is like two. Never mind. Yeah. So this little guy here goes along with the lemon drop and the fireball, which the lemon drop is a granular synthesizer. The fireball is our wavetable synthesizer. And this little Herbert here, the Razzmatazz, is a little drum machine groove box kind of thing. You can load your own samples into it. It's very small. It's, which you would expect means portable, but like the rest of the nano box things, they are not battery powered.
None of the 1010 stuff is.
None of the 1010 stuff is battery powered. Even though it's very small and very portable, you would think that they would put a battery in there. And considering that the thing is just basically running on an Android operating system, you can easily fit a battery into that little box.
Yeah.
It's just USB.
Yeah, it is. So you can get like a power brick or something like that, and you still power them.
Or a generator.
Or a giant diesel generator.
Just get like a 300-pound gasoline generator.
Or a Prius. You can run your house on a Prius for 2 weeks, but on a tank of gas. Imagine how long you can use your 1010 nano boxes for.
You'll get frustrated with it and hurl it out the window way before that.
I think so.
That was my experience with the black box.
So I know Actitect has a 1010 box. I think it's a black box, and I've seen him do some incredible things with it. I know that Infotray has a blue box, which sounds like blue balls. And I've seen him use that and kind of stuff, and he's used it, and we've jammed together and stuff like that. I've had some of their Eurorack stuff back when I was into that world, and I really liked the idea of them, but I really did not like the execution of them.
The hardware is... I had a black box, and I thought the hardware was fine. I don't like 3.5 millimeter jacks, and it's loaded down with those. And I don't think USB power is a reasonable thing to use for a sound making device, because it just begs to hum and make a bunch of bullshit noise.
Yeah, especially on a mixer.
Yeah, if you want to introduce ground loop hum.
Yeah, it's just like, it's not a... I mean, especially when you have, like, there's so many good options. If you're doing data over it too, I guess it's kind of reasonable. But like those center pin 9-volt guitar plug doohickeys, like, it's figured out. The problem is solved. Like, nobody needs to invent a new plug. Like, this works just fine, and they're 4 cents each, and you can buy them by the barrel full. So
you can even buy ones that chain together, so you can plug all that shit together at once.
It's crazy how, like, I don't know why anybody's actually, for like lower powered things, I really actually don't know why anybody's not just using guitar pedal plugs. It's everything else is the wrong answer. But the biggest thing for me with the black box was, so like, I don't know how clear this is, but like, I'm not like a large person. I'm like 5'10". I'm not like particularly big.
I always thought he was like Willow size. I always thought you were like 3'4" or something.
I know it's I'm a little bigger than that, but and I have like slender hands, and the screen on the thing was unusable.
Yeah.
I could not operate the screen with my fingers. So I had I had mine a couple years ago, so maybe they made improvements to this. I don't know. I could not operate the screen with my fingers, and the so I bought a stylus. And I was like, I will get the stylus to work, and I got one of those ones that's really cheap ones with the fat like rubber dome on it.
It's just like just as bad as your finger.
That was useless, so I hucked it in the trash can, and then I spent like $20 on this stylus that was like the pointy stylus. And that worked for everything except the sequencer. And even with that stupid pointy plastic stylus, the sequencer was so small that it was literally unusable. Yeah. And I said, that's ridiculous. Yeah. And I got rid of the thing, because that was just, it was way too frustrating. Like, I didn't need the sequencer that much, but I could not use it.
And that was my problem too, because like I had the what they call those things? It was the toolbox that was the Eurorack, and the thing is, I mean, it was like the end all be all thing. It had like 4 LFOs in it. It had like as many, like up to 12 different sequencers, and you can change them over to like drum sequencers or like note and gate sequencers and stuff like that. And it was a really cool idea, but fucking A, you can't like, and it was like piano roll, and you got this little tiny little screen that that no matter what size your fingers are, you will not be able to hit those fucking piano roll notes the way you want to. So half the time you're sitting there undoing everything, and it's just like, okay, here's my sequence, and I'm never touching this again. It was so, and then like the drum sequencer, it kind of looks like the second photo on the web page on here, which is just like these tiny little dots, and the only way you can turn those things on is by touching them. And you're just like the little squares, and you're like, half the time you're touching 3 of them, half the time you're touching, and this is one of the points where it's like multi-touch display might not be good at this size here, folks.
Yeah, not a fan. So I would, I mean, the only drum machine that anybody needs, it's an S2400 and an Alesis SR16. Those are the only drum machines anybody needs in the whole world.
No, the only drum machine anybody needs is an analog rhythm.
You're allowed to be wrong. We love you anyway. But that's, I mean, I don't know. This thing's weird. It's weird. It's kind of expensive for what it is.
It's $400. It's like $420. Which is a lot for this little thing.
Yeah, that is a lot for what it does. I mean, it's a novelty.
Again, what's
I
its
mean,
telephony?
Well, it's a drum machine.
It only has 8. So
it's
it
8
only
voices.
has 8 voices available.
Yeah.
I assume it could play 8 of them at the same time.
64 steps.
Yeah, I mean, if someone came to me and said they wanted to do something for $549, you can get the MC101. Whether you like Roland or not, I mean, it's a much more functional groove
in
box,
fact,
and
I'm
that's
positive that's where they got the idea to throw FM into it.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I'm not saying I would like the MC101, but if I was in the market for a tiny groove box, this thing just seems like a freaking tanker toy to me.
These guys like this form factor and this utility. I don't know. I'm not a huge not like a huge phone app person. Though there's one in today's news that is really cool, but like I would just use a phone app.
Yeah.
I would just use a phone app.
Absolutely.
Like there's some that are really good. I like Flip and Koala are killer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who do you think the market is? I mean, I think there's people that just think it's cool to have something in their hands.
That's something small, and to think that
weird.
it it probably hides what it's running on, so people think it's not an Android or a phone.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of people, hate software synthesizers and that they're running digital synths that are basically just running the soft synth in their hardware.
It's just a VST on a chip. Yeah.
So it's that work. I suspect that they're not really thinking about their client base. I think it's coming from the engineers who are like, we really like this development board. What else can we do with it?
That's my guess.
And that's why everything keeps coming out on this size with this weird power and these flaws. I think they bought a ton of these development boards and are like, all right, what else can we make with this? We got like 1,100 of them left.
Hayes Anderson says for $80 you can get a PO33. It takes some understanding to unlock its power, but holy shit, folks, it's a really amazing sampler and drum machine emulator. Unfortunately, it's made by Teenage Engineering, who's also responsible for this thing, this life destroyer. Yeah. I was happy once.
Yeah, those little pocket machines they had were cool.
Yeah, I see a lot of people do a lot of cool stuff with the pocket operators. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just think that the bright colors and the small form factor. Well, I don't disagree. There's probably right. There's a technical. There's something about the kitsch of it. They're still selling cutesy things in weird colors for kitsch, and people think they look neat. I guarantee you that's what is helping sell these
I
things.
wonder if they're really selling that much of this stuff either.
Well, probably not. But if it was like in a Radio Shack casing, and we'll talk about Bassel later because that's what their old stuff is, then, it's a little less interesting, a little less aesthetic.
Or, different aesthetic, I think.
Yeah. I mean, one that doesn't fall apart.
And speaking of things that fall apart, timetables. Let's talk about timetables, shall we?
Timetables.
Timetables tend to fall apart a lot. Let's hope that Ableton doesn't have that problem at Loop.
Loop is cool.
Loop is the Ableton's online event that they do every year, and they have a timetable up now. Yay! Which, if you are a person that likes Ableton, then this is for you.
I didn't even know that you needed to love
Ableton. I'm just messing. I think that actually the schedule on here looks like it's got some pretty cool things that go beyond just Ableton based stuff. It reminds me of that book that Ableton put out a while ago. I can't remember what it was called.
Making music.
Yeah, something like that.
I think so.
Yeah, because I got the electronic copy of it and I read it and it was really good and it was not Ableton centric and I thought it was really a cool and creative way of doing it, kind of thing.
I have that book in hardcover. It's good.
Nice. Yeah, so they have some classes on collaboration is listening, the Loop Cafe, which sounds like a clusterfuck, really. Because virtual hangout spaces for conversations with other attendees is just people talking over each other for 45 minutes. using text scores to make music together, and get to know Gafachi. Ew. Yeah.
They have a collaborative challenge about getting unstuck together too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's free.
I did it last year. It was good.
Yeah. If you've got nothing going on October 29th, and you can convert your time from Berlin UTC +2, then you should hit this thing and have some fun with it.
I just want to add, if you're ever stuck, Google Brian Eno's oblique strategies.
Or if you're ever stuck, if I can get a bit more,
Join the Golden Shrimp Guild.
turn to your friends at the Golden Shrimp Guild and order yourself the Jam Strategy card set.
There's a new pack out that's got.
There's an extension.
Mine.
Yeah, there's an expansion pack on it that does in fact feature Jeff. I'm in here. Total Robin's in here. Actitech's in here. I was looking at people who are regularly on our show here. DNK Troll is on here. It was just a fucking troll. Wambra is on here. So have some fun with it. It's a great little deck. It's a lot of fun. Do I have 2 Wambras? No, I don't. Okay, phew.
That's a good amount of
That's a
Wambras.
lot of Wambra. I think that's more Wambras
By the
than
way,
anybody.
Wambra makes really interesting
He does.
stuff. He really has really good sound.
And I've
design.
met Wambra
And he does interesting
physically,
stuff
and
with-
he does not sound like he sounds like on here. He's a really cool guy.
Because online he seems terrifying, and you guys have, he was much more mild.
He's very mild-mannered. We had a great time. I even
met the first
gave him a
banner.
bag of Skittles, which is like his Christmas present for the next 12 years. But
It's got to last
yeah,
him for
and
12
he ate
years.
them all already too. So, but yeah, it's
Well, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you eat them all instantly?
but yeah, they're really nice-looking cards. Check those out. Yeah.
Is there
They're good.
a bigger, blacker synth?
Is there one? I'm sure there is, but as far as like the expansion packs in here or anything like that, no, we put out an expansion pack, but when you buy the deck now, you get all of them. So including the expansion deck. Like yeah. If you already have a deck, then you can get the expansion deck. That's like $9-10 or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are even better than oblique strategies because they're less expensive. And B, if you follow musicians on Twitch, especially the electronic genre, they're probably in there because the Golden Shrimp Guild is probably the largest of the Twitch collectives out there that does the music stuff. So
That's right.
buy one today over at the Golden Shrimp Guild at gsg.live. They will change your life,
They will.
make you more attractive and to whoever you're attracted to, and make babies not come out of you if you are the baby making type.
I'm gonna post the next story, and I'm gonna take us out of order because we were talking about.
Yeah,
Ableton.
that's fine. That's fine. You can bust that out. So yeah, speaking of Ableton, our good friends at Ableton have debuted an application called Note, which is an iOS app for sketching out musical ideas and things on the go. Only available on iOS. Sorry, Christoph. Thank you.
You know what? I get it. Android is terrible for audio. So I know why everybody develops, audio apps for iOS, because right from the beginning it had a really good API for audio. And Android has just been terrible.
Yeah.
So Caustic supports 2 separate sound engines, so you can get low latency audio in Caustic, but Samsung used to have its own app like GarageBand, and it was also very low latency, very high sound quality. Of course, they discontinued it because it wasn't making any money. But yeah, I understand why everything's on iPhone for audio apps. It's a much better environment to develop for.
Did anybody get this but me? Or am I the only one?
I'm not an Ableton user, so although this would be fun to sketch things out, I can't really do anything once I have a sketch done.
This is a pretty cool app. So I got it and I played around with it a little bit, and then I realized that it was actually like quite a bit more robust than I thought it was going to be. I bought it thinking it was going to be probably closer to something like Flip or Koala. And It is not. It is actually pretty. It is pretty deep. It sort of sits maybe like halfway between Ableton Live and Flipper Koala. Like, there's obviously lots of stuff. Like, it doesn't have any of the like audio effects like Ableton.
Sure.
Like, it's not a full DAW or whatever, but it has pretty good sequencing. A lot of other kind of unexpected features around the sequencing and the composition, and it's pretty cool. Like, it's for $6, it's a good deal.
Nice.
It's yeah, it's neat.
I think it's interesting. Other DAWs have done, made mobile versions of themselves. I mean, Cubase has been around forever, and obviously Roland's got all of their various incarnations of things. But I think Roland kind of took it to a weird level, because I'm like, why are you doing that? You don't even sell.
Yeah. What's
right?
what's your end goal with that, other than here's my thing that I'm going to play you on my phone speaker, or whatever.
I think it's a gateway drug to their hardware, or to their subscription services.
I think that,
the cloud.
I think that
it's fine.
that Ableton is doing it well, because you can take these projects and you can dump them into Live. So it's kind of like GarageBand for the, on the iPhone or on the iPad. You can open those projects up on your computer, on your Mac as well. The difference, though, is that you can't go the other way in Ableton, where you can do that with GarageBand. You can open your GarageBand projects from your computer on your mobile devices. But Ableton, you can't open Ableton projects for obvious reasons, because the Ableton Note doesn't have the capability for that kind of thing.
It's more enjoyable to use than GarageBand.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean,
I will say on the mobile device.
I can totally see that. But I know that some people are like, well, you can't go backwards. Like, but this thing is a sketchpad.
Yeah, that's not the point
exactly.
Here,
And what it does, it's extremely handy if you are an Ableton user. This is fantastic. I'd love to see more DAWs do that, or that offer these kinds of mobile little app things and stuff like that. Because like Propeller Head, back when they were called Propeller Head, came out with like this little like version of Reason for your iPad or your iPhone, and it wasn't. It was called something else, and it was completely self-contained. It lived in its own world, and you couldn't do anything with it after you were done. I'm just like, it's kind of a waste of time.
Yep. So if you're looking for something like Reason for your phone,
yes,
Caustic. It's very similar, and it'll run on a PC. It won't run on a Mac.
So
sorry, Mac people.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. As for what Roland is thinking, I think they're thinking with their services, they're selling. They've so invested in that Zen Core system, and their phone app is also based on Zen Core, and selling sample packs for it. And people will buy sample packs, especially kids, and that's a lot of money. And so you don't want to leave money on the table for someone else to pick up. So I think they're trying to compete with Korg Gadget.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, Korg Gadget is interesting. I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot better than the Roland stuff, but it's also kind of weirder.
Their business model for Korg, it gets really expensive really quick, and then they have it out for the desktop and laptops, but I think you have to rebuy everything once you move over to that environment.
Every platform, it's on the Nintendo Switch too.
Is Korg Gadget available for Android?
I think so.
I don't know.
Luckily, we have the power of all of human knowledge at our fingertips.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of instruments in there that are really good. One of their drum machines, I can't remember what it's called, is fantastic. But
nope. It's for iOS and Mac.
Yeah.
See? And so that's the thing. Roland made it available for everybody. And there are 1 billion Android users. So, instead of leaving money on the table for someone else to pick up, Roland went to go get that money. And the thing is, Caustic's no longer being actively developed, and eventually it will drop, and then Zen Beats will be the only thing really like this for Android.
You could buy that one Android phone and get that one.
Caustic is far better.
You could buy that one Android phone that has the Teenage Engineering app on it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
And it looks like this. This is the Android phone.
Yeah.
Hello? This is horrible.
Yes.
It's London.
I mean,
London
one
is
of the
the
main things I'm looking from a phone is that it can't be used to communicate. So I'm interested.
Maybe
Sell this to
Future
you.
Retro could build you a phone.
Maybe. And the good news about Future Retro is they're no longer closing their doors. They're just shaking up their management.
So now they have a future.
Yes. Something like that.
How?
Wow. I don't go that far. Don't get
They
crazy.
might have a future. They
For
Well, so their
days
founder's
anyway.
no longer running things. That was Jared Flickinger. They're thinking he's going to stick around. So it's under new management now, and they're planning on releasing a bunch of stuff. They're shipping the Vectra synthesizers in December, and then their transient tracks and MIDI bus to follow after that. So they said that when this came out, it said that their website was down. It's back up now. It's just basically, here's some stuff that they have. They don't actually have any of the sale stuff in here right now, so they're not actually actively selling anything, but they have a thing up on top saying expanded and complete website coming soon. So it's mostly just for like downloads and stuff right now. So
Well, I don't know if this web thing's going to take off.
yeah, I don't know what this
I think it's
internet
just
thing is.
bad.
Just kind of yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Future Retro came out with some pretty neat stuff. I like the idea of like the Revolution. The XS sounded really good. The 777 synthesizer looks like something Justin would own.
For sure.
So yeah, I don't know. I hope that they can follow through and they can do this stuff again. And I'm glad they put a website up that at least still has support for their current offerings. But we'll find out. I don't know if like a holding company came in and swooped down or somebody invested some money into it.
I wonder what happened with synthesizers.com.
I don't know. Are they still for sale?
I don't know.
Luckily, we have the power of all human knowledge at our fingertips. Synthesizers.com. Well, it went right to a Wikipedia page.
There's nothing on the Instagram page that looks like they were ever for sale.
Yeah, it doesn't show anything on their website either. Their website's just kind of like, we're selling stuff.
For synthesizer, yeah, I got complete systems, must have modules,
Yep.
low on cables.
That was kind of a weird thing. Sometimes I kind of wonder if people are just like, my business is failing, I have to sell it.
And then they're like, well, never mind.
JK.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like maybe the people that run synthesizers.com are the most brilliant business people who've ever been. I don't know. I have no knowledge of anything, but I do feel like a lot of the time what happens is when you have people who are really passionate about the thing that they're making or the thing that, they're building these instruments that they love and like that's what they're good at. They're not
marketing
like,
people. They're not.
Yeah, they're not like cold-hearted, dead inside business people like myself, and it's like I couldn't make anything.
I like the idea of this company, and for folks that don't know, synthesizers.com they make 110. They make these very large, like quarter, this big old school modular synthesizers, the Moog format. And what you can do is you can basically subscribe to them, and you put down money, and then every month you send they automatically debit you, and you get another rack, and then eventually you build an entire synthesizer that way. It's kind of a clever way of doing it.
You can also just
buy them right. Oh yeah, you can also just buy them right out too. And they're really, they sound great. They're huge. They're heavy duty and stuff like that. If you're a fan of the band M83, they use them a lot. The synthesizers.com stuff in their.
Oh, I don't know that.
In their,
Okay.
Or if you ever wanted to build Tonto.
Yeah.
In your home.
Yeah.
You could build Tonto. Yeah, that's true.
Yep. Yep, if you want to build that thing.
Now that's an old school album right there. It's some
Oh, yeah.
old stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, and so that's their thing is they just build these big Moog style modular synthesizers. And they announced they were for sale a little while ago, and now there's like it's disappeared.
Seems like they're not.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe they're not for sale now.
I didn't buy them. Wasn't me.
It wasn't me. Christoph, was it you? I knew it.
No.
Get them!
Wait, that's why I'm poor.
Because you bought synthesizers.com.
Yeah.
So everything is build to order there as
Bad
well. So they don't
decisions.
actually have anything in stock. So whenever someone orders something, then it's like takes a while because they got to solder that bad boy together and get it ready to go and test it out for
Yeah.
you. So yeah, that's a thing. Good job.
Yep.
Good job, Future Retro. I hope that it works out. And I also hope that Kenton puts out this MIDI patch bay that they were talking about at SynthFest. The
Yep.
Kenton Interchanger.
Yeah, this is an exciting idea.
Yes.
There's a shortage of good MIDI patch bays. I know a lot of people just have a few cents and they're hooking it up through USB and it's fine. But if you've got a lot of older gear, it's not USB. And like I used to have, I needed 16 ins and 16 outs to get everything going without having too much MIDI slop. Because some people will chain your synths together, but in doing that, the MIDI slop kills your timing.
Right.
And so right now, I think the big company left is Mark of the Unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff had some nightmares with them.
And Mio.
Yeah, Mio.
Mio XL.
And Mio.
Or iConnectivity.
But yeah, so it's great to see somebody else coming into this.
Yep.
The competition is always good.
And Kenton is known for making MIDI products anyway.
Yeah.
Like they make their MIDI splitters and stuff like that, the MIDI converters and merge through boxes, all that kind of stuff. And they make good quality stuff, and it's most of it you can like get over in Europe, so you have to like go through Toman or something like that to order them if you want to get them in the States. But this looks good. This looks exciting. I mean, nobody's really putting out a MIDI patch bay right now.
Except for like Mark of the Unicorn.
Not
like,
really.
Nothing new.
Those are just MIDI
It's all
interfaces.
old.
They're not even putting out just patch bays anymore.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, MIDI Solutions don't make some, but so I use MIDI Solutions, but it's kind of a hybrid of what you're talking about, Christoph. So it's not chaining through a bunch of keyboards, obviously, but they do have like a MIDI through box, and I use 2 of them that cascade, and it's a 1 to 8, right? So for me, looking at this, I'm like, well, why would I need as many ins as I need out? So it doesn't fix any of my problems, because I'm all tracking back to my audio interface. But to your point, it has no brains. I mean, it's literally has no brains. There's no UI. There's no updating the firmware as far as I know. Whereas this thing looks like it's instrumented. You can actually configure it.
Yeah.
And the Kenton's just really cool. I mean, I wish they would make more. They used to make more retrofits for old synthesizers that didn't have MIDI. They made a Moog one, a Moog Source one. I think they made a Poly 6 one. I don't know why.
They did make the Juno 60 one too.
Yeah. And now they're like, sorry, we don't make them anymore. Maybe we'll think about it in the future. And I'm like, I get it. It's a very niche market. But and when theoretically you can use one of their boxes to do the same damn thing, you just need to buy their cables for CV.
And Justin, to your statement about just the MIDI outs and the MIDI ins, I've actually started using the MIDI, routing full MIDI on my setup, mostly so I can do automations in the DAW with the gear, and I can not do that. And because a lot of times when I'm about to record everything and stuff like that, I'll listen. I'm like, I want to put some automation in there, and instead of having to go and record that off of the thing, I can just pull it right up here at the desk and just do it right from there. Yeah. And so I do find that to be pretty useful. Yeah. And plus I can, rack my gear up and not have to think about having to go over to play it. I can just come sit right here at my controller and just do it from there. I'm lazy.
Yeah. I mean, I pull it all back to a patch bay, so I do have to do that at least. But the MIDI at least is always on and not dependent on anything like in a change.
Yeah, and I guess because I'm, old, I've got a lot of rack gear, and so we have a lot of controllers. So this way, if you have a lot of ins and a lot of outs, say this keyboard goes to that module, this drum kit goes to that sampler, this keyboard goes to that synth, and then it all play live. So. And it's easier to transport a rack of gear and a bunch of cheap controllers than a bunch of expensive synths.
That's true.
Yep.
True.
And like with my setup, so I have the iConnectivity Mio XL, and that has a whole bunch of ins and outs. And basically, and then the sequencer that I run is the Squarp Hapax. And so I can control anything from anything else, and I can record the automation from any of the synths. So like if I do like a filter sweep on the Super 6 or whatever, I can record the sweep from the Super 6, which because again, I am a crazy person. I think that the knobs and the faders that are on each synth actually affect the way that things like that sound. So, if you've got a filter sweep like on a knob, you're gonna operate it differently than a fader that's this long and differently than a fader that's this long. Or if you're just drawing it into the DAW. This big versus this big. And so all of those things sort of like become part of the way that synth sounds to me. So that's one of the other things that I like is that that I'm not recording like fader knob automation from some other thing over here or drawing it in with a mouse or whatever. Like I'm doing it on the device, and so it to me it feels and sounds more like that device.
At the same time, sometimes I want to sit there and draw it with a mouse, especially if I'm doing like really weird, crazy shit. That's like very repetitive. I like being able to just copy and paste that shit in there and calling it a day, especially panning because I like doing weird pans. I wear weird pans. But then I also have like a bunch of USB because I have all the Electron stuff connected to USB so I can overbridge it. And plus it's behind me, so I have it just running through one wire over to the desk here. And I'm surprised how quiet that is. Like, really surprised how quiet that is. And how well that works, too. I'm surprised how well Overbridge works. Like, part of me wonders, like, what elves what babies they've murdered and what elves they've conned deals out of and, that kind of thing to get these things to work right. Like, this is Keebler shit going on here.
Yeah, I've shunned USB
Same here.
for the most part. But like you, I also use them to sync my stuff. So
Overbridge. I mean, I have all the gear MIDI together back there, just so I can sit there and work and play with it and stuff. But when I'm ready to record it, I can just turn on Overbridge and just dump what I just did right into it, and it will, it separates all the tracks out for you and everything, and just including like, unlike what I have going on over here, it'll dump it all out into individual outs as well, which is fantastic. They took a lot of time to put out Overbridge, and it shows that they took a lot of time to do it. It's really fucking well done. Yeah.
Yeah, kudos.
Speaking of people that took a long time to do things.
And how you run your business.
And how you run
your business model.
Yeah. So Bitwig changed their business model. What happened was they decided they were going to release value-added products, which we talk about a lot on here, and charge for it. Which, I mean, that's fine. A lot of companies do that kind of thing. That's what like Akai is doing that right now with their plugins and stuff like that. But here's the thing: is that Bitwig initially came out and said, we're going to put this stuff out and we're going to, you're going to pay a subscription fee for it, but we're going to make sure that subscription fee will cover everything we do. That was the initial business plan of Bitwig was, you're going to get this and then all the plugins are going to come with it and it'll be great. And you will have cleaner teeth and your feet will stop smelling. And then a little bit ago, they decided they're putting out a suite of plugins, like mixing plugins, and they're going to charge for it. Well,
People said that's really cool of you. Thank you.
Yeah, everyone's like, great, we can't wait to give you more money. For, even though we're giving you money every year or every month to make this thing work. That's great. And you said that you would never do this. We're so glad you changed your mind. No, they didn't. Everyone
give you a special hug with fire.
Exactly. Yeah. And so there was a lot of people that got pissed. They were all over, the Bitwig forums and stuff like that, and all over, anywhere it was mentioned and stuff. Now, I understand Bitwig's got to make money. Bitwig's got to pay developers. Maybe Bitwig's not getting enough money to pay their developers right now. I don't know. I don't know how popular Bitwig is. Unfortunately, I don't see that there's a way to really gauge that kind of thing.
Less popular now.
Yeah.
However popular it was, it's less popular.
It's at least less popular now. Well,
let's see. I have some ideas about how we can infer some things about them. Let's see how popular they are.
Are you gonna do a Google
analytic? I'm gonna make some wild assumptions.
All right. So while he's creating his analysis. So Bitwig realized the fact that the people outside with the torches and the pitchforks weren't there to say, great job, we can't wait to spend more money on you, and quickly changed their minds and included it into their Bitwig 4.4 update. So crisis averted, trust not maybe regained, but not so much, I don't think. I think a lot of people are kind of pissed that they tried to pull that off.
Yeah, it's a fine line. I think people can tell when people are being ridiculously, obviously just greedy. I mean, mostly people can tell. I can't always tell, but it's down to what it's worth to you, right? I guess.
Well, and none of the stuff that they were selling extra was necessary for you to run Bitwig. Now, part of me is sure. If they were doing something like, well, if you want the 4.4 update, it's going to cost you money, outside of the subscription that you're already paying,
right.
Studio One just came out with version 6, and they just, if you have the subscription, you just get it automatically. Cool. But yeah, and Bitwig is a bunch of disgruntled old Ableton employees. They got started by, I should say, by a bunch of those folks. I don't know if they're disgruntled, but they're former Ableton employees, and they wanted to make something that was a little bit different. And it's very well known for how modulatable everything is. Everything in that thing is modulatable by whatever else. Or you can LFO anything in there, including your mixer channels and your effects and stuff like that. And you can make it all work incredibly well. And they really embraced things like the modular markets and stuff, and Eurorack and everything as far as part of that. So they're kind of like the underdog of the DAWs in a way. But then this happens. So how's your analysis, Jeff?
It's going pretty well so far. Okay, so here we go. Are we ready to do this?
Yes.
Let's go deep. Okay, so
get on your hip waders, kids.
Ableton gets. I did this based on web traffic and estimated value from some research on Ableton. So Ableton has an annual revenue of, it looks like, about $50 million a year. So I'm going to make some wild leaps on this here, so let's hang together. So Ableton, $50 million a year. Ableton gets about 400K traffic a day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we are. Bitwig gets about 20K traffic, so it's 1/40th the size.
Okay.
Traffic-wise. In terms of Google Trends data, so which is not an absolute measure, but a relative measure. Mm-hmm. Ableton tends to run somewhere around an index of about 80 to 85. on Google Trends, Bitwig tends to run 1 to 3.
Okay.
So I think it is relatively safe to say, I mean, we have 2 data points here. So like 2 data points based on the web. There's like a 40x more interest in Ableton than there is in Bitwig.
Okay.
So if Ableton does $50 million a year, that would put, if interest translates to dollars, which probably doesn't, like probably the dollars are more, like probably the interest in Bitwig, because it's further away from the marginal return curve.
Mm-hmm.
The interest is probably better in Bitwig, so it's over-indexing, I would assume. So if the interest is 1/40th, maybe it's 1/20th.
Mm-hmm.
So I would maybe it's even 1/10, like just being super generous to it. I would say order of magnitude, Ableton is probably something like 50 to 60 million a year, and Bitwig is probably like 4 to 5 million sales.
Okay. Yeah.
So comparatively, it's not that big. Like, 4 to 5 million in sales would put them at, realistically for a software company, if that's putting them at like 60% gross margin. 4 to 5 million, that's like 3-ish million in operating budget. It's not a lot.
Yeah.
That's a handful of developers and some people, so I can imagine why they would want more money. Like, you can't really support 10 people. You got 10 people making 150 grand a year. Let's say they're like really good software engineers, and they're all making 150 grand a year, and that's $1.5 million. That's half your budget there.
Yep.
Just in people. It's assuming you don't have an office or any sort of like hard development costs or any marketing fees.
Right.
Also, you don't have to pay for health insurance.
Yeah. So it's not like it'd go fast. I can see why they're at this weird place where you just like, you need to grow is my guess.
Mm-hmm.
And they're probably going to do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
Anytime.
So yeah, Bitwig pissing people off. Hopefully they can regain their trust and continue moving on and innovating their software and everything like that.
Yeah, people really wigged out about that.
They really did.
Yeah.
You know what they could always do?
Come on.
They could sync their clocks.
They could have a Kickstarter.
They could. They could. Good old Metronome. They made their numbers on this Kickstarter. Good for them.
Yes, Metronome, which weirdly enough was advertised all over like my Instagram. That this was going on. So this is the asynchronization device for electronic musicians, as the advertising says on it. Currently in Kickstarter, they are looking for $19,688 to make their devices. They pulled in $139,982 in pledges. It must have been that right there in the video is a deluge, and that's probably what made it so popular.
Could be. They're all of a week into this campaign too. So
yeah.
I think it's gonna go.
Oh yeah, I think so. So yeah, it actually has full-size MIDI on it. What? Everything basically is just a hyper timer in a way, for want of a better term. You can plug your computer into it. You can plug in your DIN syncs devices, your MIDI devices, and your CV and analog devices into it, as well as a headphones for an audio metronome. So everybody gets in sync. So your shitty drummer can be in sync as well, hopefully. The device,
your shitty drummer can know what the tempo is.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it might not help them do anything else, but
they will know.
At least they'll hear a click, 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 and make that their eventual goal. But if you are a respectable person and have a machine doing your drums like every respectable person should, then that's okay, because this thing's got you covered, whether you're using DIN sync or CV or MIDI. Going price on this thing, they're saying it's going to be €199, so that's about like $170. Decent price. You can get it on an early bird on the Kickstarter for €149, which is probably about like $147. So yeah, that's going on right now. And yeah, good job everybody for taking care of that really quickly. 22 days to go. $139,000 made.
It's really comparable to the ERM multi-clock.
Mm-hmm.
in terms of features. It exceeds the multi-clock on features. It doesn't exceed the multi-clock on knobs or screen, but it does exceed it on features by a lot. Mm-hmm. The multi-clock is like 500 and some euros.
Yeah, so it's quite a price difference.
And the multi-clock is definitely the best one, and the multi-clock is 50 times less accurate.
Wow.
Or I guess the better way to say that is it is 1/50th as accurate.
That's crazy.
As this thing, yeah. The metronome is kind of ludicrous. So for people who are using especially a lot of like CV and Euro rack stuff that you really want to keep tight, this is really cool. Or if you want to sync a whole bunch of stuff and really like avoid that MIDI slop that you're talking about and keep it really tight together, it's a cool device. I pre-ordered one.
If you don't like quantization, you don't want this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like 15 or 50 nanoseconds of jitter.
That's insane.
So yeah, it's like not detectable in the universe or something. Levels of jitter.
It generates tachyons and will actually travel in time to fix your shitty timing.
Basically, yes.
Perfect. I love this idea. So yeah, the metronome is what this device is called. $149. Go get it, kids. Come on now.
A thing that this will help solve for people. People are like, why would I need a clock thing? So anybody who's wondering, so there's external gear relies on different clocks. And so if you're syncing lots of sequencers or something like on device sequencers, each one has a different level of jitter and MIDI slop in it. And so they get out of sync with each other, and that's the worst. Also, computers are not great at being clocks like this. Computers are really good at being clocks that are like accurate every day and making sure that your seconds are right every day, but they get these spikes as the processors really ramp up on things and then they drop off. And so having something external to your computer handle the timing if your computer is handling your sequencing is a really smart idea, because computers, which is very counterintuitive, computers are terrible at timing for like really tight timing over short periods of time.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real-time calculation, which is expensive and
Yep. And they're not good at it. So
consistently for a long period. Yeah, it's not okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I haven't pre-ordered one, but I do have a lot of weird outboard gear, and I would even like to experiment using some DIN sync with some of the Roland stuff and see.
Yep. So that's how you would use this. Like I think it's remarkably valuable for computer use, and also having a built-in metronome that is perfectly synced to your clock that plays audibly is actually like kind of very helpful.
No doubt.
Hooray.
That's awesome. Well, I hope they make it. Oh wait, they already did.
They're like,
hope they actually make the devices.
1,000% of their target.
I should say.
This is their second launch.
I hope they produce the goddamn thing.
Yeah, their first they did a Kickstarter in April and it failed, and he had just not done a good job on the marketing of it, which he's talked about. He's like, look, the product is great. I just did a bad job on this marketing. I set the targets wrong, but this time they got it right, and that's good.
That's awesome. Good job, everybody. So next piece of news here. I was trying to think of a good segue and nothing came up. So I'll just do it the old-fashioned way. Next piece of news here. Sequential.
Oh, no. I posted the wrong one. We're talking about Big Sky.
Okay, just kidding. All right. We'll talk about sequential in a second here. God, you really skipped. All right. So our friends at Strymon, the makers of the Big Sky Reverb VST in a box, have decided to take the box out of it and just turn it into a plugin to release as well. this is well-known device for all kinds of people that like ambient music. This thing is just like the ambient big boy. Sounds beautiful, sounds amazing, sounds huge. They're usually, I think like the boxes are generally like $600.
Yeah.
This puppy's going for 200.
You'll need a separate computer to run it, just to be clear.
That's why it was in a box.
Oh no, it's $479. I just looked on Sweetwater.
Okay.
So the big Sky is $479 in a pedal. Or the plugins 200.
Or the plugins.
So that
must have come down because of the Empress.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Eventide's been their main competitor for a long time.
Yep.
Too.
Yeah.
So it says right here the system
yeah.
requirements. They actually is just like they don't give you system requirements that are actually realistic. It just says Monterey or Big Sur on a Mac or Windows 10 on a PC. That's what they say their system requirements are.
You need Amiga Workbench 3.5 and
Requires a system.
It requires a computer. Now, if you want it to sound good, start throwing your fucking resources at this puppy.
Well, I mean, has anybody tested? Do we know that it's really a CPU?
I have not downloaded the trial.
no.
Reverbs are generally,
is
I would
pretty
say,
bad.
reverbs in general are pretty CPU intensive, though.
Yeah. But I mean, I've got a Eventide Black Hole, and it's running just fine on a 12-year-old CPU.
Yeah, I also use Black Hole as well, and you're right, it's not that bad.
And it's very nice sounding. Although a lot of the Eventide plugins are long in the tooth. But Eventide has a long history of making great things that worked on, relatively weak hardware by today's standards.
Mm-hmm.
So they know all the tricks. So
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would be questioning would be, so Starsky Kari, since you mentioned him earlier, I was Googling this preparing for the show, and I found that he'd actually done an A to B test with Valhalla. But at first I thought he was the plugin, but he was testing against the hardware.
Oh, wow.
And was like, hey, look, I can get it to do the same stuff. So I'm just throwing that out there, that you start dipping your toe into the non-hardware waters, and you're dealing with a lot of stiff competition for a lot lower price.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he did say, he was able to get like the shimmer effect, but there's still a difference. And if you're trying to get that Big Sky sound, which is a beautiful sound, then this is now possible. Because like one of the problems that people have with Big Sky is that it's not rack mount. There's no rack mount version. It's only in this pedal format, which isn't great for everybody. And a lot of in studios want plugins, like especially film production. They run racks of computers. I mean, the computers aren't even anywhere near you. You're remoting into a computer that's in another room. So this is a way for them to get into that market. And do I want this? Yeah, I do.
Yeah, same.
Because it does sound great.
I'd send it to my buddy Andy, who does the soundtrack stuff, but given that I think he's still running Windows XP, I don't think he'll be able to run it.
Yeah.
It says it requires Windows.
It says Windows 10.
Not on Sweetwater. It says it requires a Windows or a Mac.
It says Windows 10 on their website, so apparently their website is a little bit more precise than our friends at Sweetwater.
So I can't run it.
Stirring up trouble, Jeff.
Always doing that kind of thing.
Any Windows.
Yep.
Kitchen Windows, dining room Windows.
I don't do Windows.
Windows 3.11 for workspace.
But I mean, just Big Sky is a reverb that's almost an instrument into itself. It's almost created a genre unto its sound. It's a fantastic reverb. So it's been making shitty guitar players sound good for about 10 years. So. And shitty synth players.
Yeah,
it's usually hide your mess ups.
You could play a sequential take 5.
You can play a sequential take 5 running the open their new firmware that's still in beta, but they released anyway. Because I love when companies do that. Here, test this for us, people. Jesus fucking Christ. Anyway, so our friends over at Novation, Sequential, have released this Take 5 beta 1.0.0.10. Did you catch all that?
Sounds like Morse code. Or
it's
a rush
here's our
song.
binary
Or
release. Beep boop beep boop beep boop beep boop beep boop. So they give you 8 additional banks of program locations. That's cool. All right. They have they've added envelope repeat for envelopes 1 and 2, and alternate tunings per patch, if you're into that. Oscillator 2 filter bypass mode. Sequencer start and stop from a foot pedal. The vintage mode, which is kind of like their analog slot mode, is added as a mod destination, which is kind of cool. About time they did that.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Nope.
Their other
I
stuff
know,
can't do
Vanessa
that.
could. LFO 1 and 2 slew rates, they have that in there, and LFO rate displayed on screen when frequency is updated. They also fixed a couple bugs in there as well. If you do have a Take 5 and you are planning on running this, keep in mind that your factory sound banks will be overwritten with the basic version. So if you overwrote any of the factory sound banks with your own stuff, it'll just go ahead and wipe those out for you.
save those first.
So yeah, so you better invest in Sound Tower. Or
exactly. So get that shit off of there first. So the Take 5 is an interesting beast to me. It's like it's modern sequential's affordable synthesizer.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty dang powerful, and it's got a lot of the same components that they're, it's kind of a hodgepodge of Pro 3 and their reissue of the Prophet, and they've done a lot of interesting stuff here, and they've made it kind of affordable, and it's cool that they're adding software features to it. It's interesting though because they haven't really been doing that much for say the Pro 3 or even the Prophet Rev 4, but I think they realize this is a different kind of market. You can tell that it's obviously a dynamic market to people that are like, hey, we want this stuff. We're not attached to sort of the cachet or the vintageness of this. We want this thing to be functional. So give us shit.
Like that. Give us shit.
So it's good. That's good for the market. It's good for them.
Yeah, and I think that people want a sequential instrument, and they wanted to make one that's a little bit more entry level price wise. It's still not cheap though.
True.
It's not like back in the day when DSI was doing this stuff and they were pumping out like the $300-$400 synths and stuff like that.
Right. No, it's true. I'm just going to look to see what I don't even know what they're going for. Okay, so they're like
this is $1,500.
Like
That's not a cheap synth. That's not a very good. That's not a. I wouldn't call that entry level pricing.
Well, yeah, you're right. I think it's maybe a gateway drug to their more expensive line.
No,
That'd be about it.
I agree. But this is also, I think, their cheapest one they have out right now.
Yeah. Yeah, the Pro 3, depending on whether you get the SE or not, it's running you over $2,000.
Private 5 is like $3,600.
Yeah, the SE.
The desktop module's $25.99. So, like I said, I think this is their least expensive device that they're running right now. I'm just looking right now.
You're right,
Nothing
though. They don't make any
$1,000.
like real entry level stuff. They don't make entry level stuff anymore. You're right.
No, and I think that and in a way, okay, they got the Prophet name back, so they're using the Prophet name to its advantage. But at the same time, like devices like the Tetra, were great, affordable little synthesizers, and they were very powerful 4-voice not just polyphonic but also polytimbral. Multi-timbral synths and stuff like that for under $800 was a fantastic purchase. But now they've become more high-end boutique kind of thing. All right. I think that the problem is though is that they're not going to turn around as much product.
Yeah.
So
It's okay. They can sell they can make out their money back by selling 5 LBX8. So it'll be
it'll be twice the size of Bitwig just from those 5. All it takes.
Right. Sell everything. All right. Next piece of news here. Speaking of nothing of matter. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. There's a book that's coming out on Kickstarter right now called The Rise of Akai Professional. It's a history of Akai. I'm not a huge Akai person, so this doesn't really blow my mind. Apparently, with 11 days to go and it not even being out of the $34,000 goal, only $5,000 has been raised. That's not as a popular idea right now as people think it is.
Yeah, the video
It's not great.
is not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. It doesn't make me want to buy it. I like Akai stuff, and I like I have an S5000. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to have an S950, and I'd sure like a MPC 3000.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I want an original MPC 60 cash register, man. Okay, maybe the 62.
I mean, it takes like 5 minutes to load a sample on it. I can, if you want to not want it, I can send you some videos because there's a dude DJ Design that I follow, and he posts videos sometimes with his, and he's like, "Y'all think you want vintage gear, but hold on." And it's like, how long does it take to load a single song? And it's like loading, next sample, loading. And
Yeah, that's
it's not very fast.
Yeah.
Oh man, I used to use the EPS 16 Plus. I would have to save songs over like 10 to 15 discs, and you basically you spend like a quarter of your life loading floppies. And
the floppy feeder.
Yeah, the 3000 job is probably the best thing they ever made. People say for the 4000 spec wise is the best one they ever made, but the 3000 is
the 4000
badass.
looks dumb. It's got this asymmetrical weird front. It's blue. It's dumb. It's not a MPC.
But its specs are pretty intense. Yeah, nobody uses it. That's the problem.
Glacial 23 uses it.
Who does?
Glacial 23.
Oh,
buddy.
I've heard some cool stuff off the 4000. I do like it. It's just I don't like the way that it looks.
Yeah,
it's a very
jinxy.
superficial driving factor.
That isn't though, because you got to like that's part of how you connect to gear.
There's also the what is it? It's was it the 2500?
Yeah, they made a bunch of weird ones. The 500, the 2500, the 1000. They were that sort of gray.
Yeah, the 1000 makes sense to me, especially for people who play live a lot. The 1000 makes a ton of sense for that. The 2500 is pretty interesting. Like it's got a really good sequencer.
Yeah, I have the 5000 Jeff, which is basically the same thing. It's just got a built-in Alesis ion synth. and it's bigger than the 2500. But yeah, that was more the old Akai, like I guess stopped making hardware after the 5000. So one of my favorite MPCs broke them. And then the next thing they released was the Renaissance, which was universally love-hated.
I don't know much about that. I don't have that one at all. Yeah, that's
what I thought. It's a hardware controller. Yeah.
This is what the future is. Okay, guys. Yeah. So anyway, that book's coming around. Yeah, I don't know. I hope they might need to go back and rethink it.
They'll never meet you. There's no fucking way.
There's no way.
Yeah, I figured I'd throw it to the viewers, let them know it's out there. So it's
it could be really interesting, but it feels I don't know. Everybody who hasn't watched the video should watch the video.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of things
I'm also
that don't have a future.
Well, before we go into that, I do have to throw a piece of news up there that I, like a dipshit, did forget to put into the final form, and that is the Mini Freak.
It's there.
It's there.
Did I?
Yeah, you added
it on my screen. Oh, that's
At the
because I
bottom.
didn't refresh my screen, and the screen's been up for a couple of hours. So, yeah, there it is. Well, I already put it up on the
after
news,
I
so we're
smart-
talking about it now.
Thank you.
Boom.
Good. Let's do it.
Mini Freak. Arturia taking the Micro Freak and taking it to the next level with mini keys.
Yeah.
That
And
are
no vocoder.
and a vocoder. Well, the mini Micro Freak had a vocoder.
No
as well.
vocoder. They took
no
off the
vocoder.
vocoder.
That's right. They
ruined it.
devocoded it. They unvoked it.
They took off.
They took off the vocoder.
They took off the
Why did they take off the
wavetable.
vocoder?
Yeah, never give less.
And charge more. $600.
Yeah.
It sounds really good, even though it doesn't have a vocoder in this form. They might add it later. People might complain enough.
Well, the original Freak didn't have one.
But
it was the second.
The second one came with a microphone, but you could use the audio input on the original one as a So
Yeah.
you know,
Sure.
generally the microphones that come with these things for vocoders are not really good.
Oh, really? So it was just the gooseneck. It wasn't even.
Yeah, it was a firmware
I
update and a
didn't know
gooseneck
that.
because it's all digital, so they can throw whatever they want to
firmware
into these
update.
things.
Okay.
So Mini Freak is
okay, right.
digital oscillator, analog filter. It's got a sequencer in it. It sounds really nice. I was listening to
Yes.
Nick Batt playing it earlier today. I'm hesitantly interested in it. I don't like the mini keys. Even though apparently the mini keys have aftertouch in them and are velocity sensitive, which is good because most mini keys are neither of those things.
Yep.
This is one of those things that I would put up somewhere and just playing it through MIDI anyway. But yeah, I like that it has a fairly large amount of different wave types and stuff like that in the oscillators. I like that you can blend them together. You can do, I think it's a 6-voice polyphonic or 12-voice paraphonic, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So that's pretty slick. And yeah, I don't know. I'm hesitantly.
I like the OG one.
Yeah.
The original one sounded great. The Micro Freak. I mean, it's brilliant. I did hear that they don't support wavetable stuff either.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. That's not to say that it won't come out later.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that
they
wave
got the
shaping in it,
shape.
stuff like that.
Look, yeah, do they need it? I mean,
Yeah.
You're right. It sounds gorgeous. I think the most interesting part about this is that Arturia is going to do something weird and compete with themselves because I guess they're supposed to release a plug-in
Yes.
version of the Mini Freak. The Mini Freak V, which I think is that's about my speed for.
Now, I'm
picking
not
this thing
sure
up,
if
but,
the Mini Freak V is going to be available separately or not. I think you have to. It comes with if you buy. It's kind of like what the Korg did. Is it?
I think it's a standalone. Yep, I could than just a controller.
Right. Yeah. But like how Korg did,
Yeah.
like when Korg did like the Wave State, and then they came out with the virtual version of the Wave State,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But you had to own the Wave State to get it for not, and I think they eventually just sold it on its own. But
I don't think it's announced it, so I think we're all speculating anyway.
yeah, well, I saw. No, it's on there. It's on the product page. It's toward the bottom of the product page for the synth. They mentioned the V in there, the Mini Freak V, but it's not in there. It's on there separate in the product catalog.
I see.
Comes after the frog.
Yes.
on
Because
the
that would
website.
be cool if they would just do that. Because I mean, I think Pigments is great. They should just focus on their cool stuff and stop doing knockoffs.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I know that's
Yeah, this thing is cool.
It's been for
I think-
years, so.
I think they're trying a little bit to compete with the Hydrosynth Explorer. Feels like it's in that same vein. It's a little more expensive. And probably
Well,
better in some ways and not in others.
Or it's just that I think the Micro Freak is very popular.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
got
for sure. The
Tension.
Micro
So
Freak
it's
is
like,
very
all right, how do we squeeze more money out of this? Well, people hate, some people love those, capacitive keys, and some people hate it. So here, give them these keys.
Yeah, this is more of a
And,
player's keyboard
You can
kind
also
of thing than
give
the other
them
one.
Simplicity.
Mhm.
So, so I think, but maybe the engines they were using aren't easily adapted to polyphony.
Yeah.
So they've got to figure that out. And so it's like, all right, well, let's get it out with what we can get running.
Yeah.
And, let's make some money. If it sells well, then we'll put some money into getting these other features in.
Yeah, so you were right, Andrew. I mean, it is, you get it for free if you buy the mini for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see it for sale on their product page separately.
Yeah. Also, I didn't even think about this, but it has real analog filters in it.
Right.
So these
It does.
these would be modeled. They're saying modeled.
And it's a multi-filter as well, an analog multi-filter, which is also kind of nice of them. Thanks, Arturia.
Yeah, digital oscillators and analog filters are a match made in heaven.
Oh yeah, I agree. As a Peak fan, I completely agree. It makes up for the drum brute almost.
Oh yeah, you mean the thing that keeps my door open when it's windy?
Still for sale. And finally tonight, our last news story comes from our friends at Bastel Instruments.
Are we dropping the other stories?
Our other stories. Do we have other stories?
Yeah, those stories.
We got them all.
The Korg. The
Korg?
SQ64
Oh
firmware
shit! I
update.
forgot about that one, didn't I?
That's what I was saying. Speaking of no future.
Speaking of no future. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Oh, well, look, I put the Bastel micro granny in, and it's been pasted.
All right. Yep. All right. So we'll hit micro guarantee and we'll go back to Korg SQ64.
Don't hit granny. That's not cool.
I love hitting.
Yeah, possession is 9/10 of the law, right?
Yeah. Tell her to go stand by the stairs.
The
I push the snow on top of Grandpa.
They have said that this thing is now this is the highest end, mightiest micro granny. The monolith.
The monolith.
It does not look monolithic. They've got a picture of your cat with it there, Andrew, on the website.
I know. Jack's hole looks like he's pushing 3 buttons with his little paw. So it's a granular sampler, lo-fi sounds. This is an S64 like competitor.
It sounds cool.
It sounds good.
Yeah, I have an original version, and it's made a lot more shoddy. I mean, I was talking about Radio Shack case. I mean, it's literally that level of stuff. But not this one. I mean, the OG one, the original one, not the monolith. But the original one was so weird and cool. These people are out of their gourd. They're absolutely nuts, but I love them. I think they're based in the Czech Republic. But they're super weird. I mean, they're like everything that Teenage Engineering wishes it was in terms of quirky and weird. But I think that you can make some really cool stuff with it. I couldn't make sense out of using the instrument, so Jeff, you'll probably laugh, but I literally sampled crap into it, screwed with it, and then sampled it back out.
Yeah, I think that's what Bryce Fulber would have done too.
Yeah, I mean I do that a lot.
Yeah, I think Bryce Fulber would have done the same exact thing. It's a valid method.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, if you're really comfortable with your sampler, some people just wind up sampling everything.
Yeah. It's fun, cool thing. I didn't actually watch the video on this, but people should check it out because I think it's weird. If you like gritty, weird stuff, it's cool.
It's gritty, it's weird. It's about $215, €223 racks, whatever those Europeans call their money.
And you could maybe control it with the SQ64.
You might be able to control it with the SQ64.
I don't have a link for that.
I'm just putting it up right now. There you go. Friends. I got it. I got you, boo.
Imagine, friends, a link.
Dig if you will. Their link is there.
To Korg.
Fix that.
Korg.com.
Alright.com. Korg has announced the SQ64 firmware update to version 2.0 that takes the SQ64 and makes it slightly more useful. It gives you a drum pad mode on the D track, which my D track always likes a drum pad mode. It does you can add quantized settings in real time. You can it does step recording. You can change your LED brightness. Hooray! It has a latch function now. Has a step copy function. Improve step edit behaviors. You can change how the loop mode works. and some other bug fixes.
So, did we just talk about this? Aren't they?
We did, because they cut the price to the point where we think it's going to get canceled.
Yeah.
Just like the OP6.
Yep.
So this is an interesting business model that they're going to dustbin this thing. And then
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, my guess is this was already in development. Before
Might
they
as well
decided
finish it.
Yeah, but also maybe they're thinking, all right, let's see if this firmware turns it around.
Yeah.
You know, but I have a feeling at the blowout price, they're really just trying to clear the inventory. And unlike the OP6, maybe the price drop wasn't enough to clear the inventory.
Well, they're still in stock at Sweetwater for $200. They're saying that it's 13 days until they're not going to be on sale anymore. So they're trying to and it says while supplies last and all that kind of stuff. Pretty much what they said before with the OP6. But this has been on sale for like 3 weeks now, and it hasn't been moving as much. Maybe the 2.0 firmware will
sold out a day.
or like 3 days. Maybe this will get some folks more excited. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a really crowded market. And
it doesn't offer anything new to the already crowded sequencer market.
Yeah, there's some very good sequencers.
Absolutely.
Like I mean, if you look at the stuff that Squarp has done and Oxy and not that you can get them, but Circlon.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a few that are out there that are just so good, and I don't know. This thing's weird and not.
Yeah, it's kind of like I really wanted, like, I had the it's I need to put up for sale actually, is the Toria's Squid.
Yeah,
and it was kind of like, I really like the idea of this, and then when I got it was not good. Like, it was just like, it was kind of like this. It's just like, okay, it does this, but it doesn't do anything that another sequencer doesn't do better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I liked the idea that it had, like, oh, I have interfacing for everything, and I can do this and this and this, and I can do these crazy things, but it does everything badly.
Yep.
So it's like, oh yeah, we have chance sequencing on here for an entire track. You can't do it in an individual step. Like, well, that's kind of, that doesn't make any sense. So it's just like some weird design decisions as far as that's concerned. But yeah, there's plenty of better sequencers out there. Like the Hapax or the Pyramid, or of course the Deluge is an excellent sequencer. Everything Electron makes, except for the modals, are kind of garbage, but yeah, plenty of sequencers in the C. The SQ64 might have a niche, but I don't know where that is.
On the discount bin.
Yeah. Zing! And that's the news.
We did it.
Thank everybody for joining us for another exciting evening of music, news, and commentary. We will be back on November 3rd. Dun, dun, dun.
Remember the 3rd of November.
Yes. That was yeah. I think that's like, isn't that like the voting day, like the 1st, I think is. So vote.
Oh, I thought Guy Fawkes Day. I'm like, no, I think
it's just later on. Everyone hopefully have a spooky Halloween time. We should have done like a Halloween themed show. Where we dressed in costumes and ate candy and gorged ourselves until we felt like dying.
That's just like my normal life. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I was gonna say, I being an independent business person, I can do things like, oh, today is dress like an astronaut day. I show up my clients. Hi. All right, we need to find someone to raid over to. What do we got? Octanode's on. Zen Modern Life is on. The Owls are on.
The Owls are not what they seem.
I know. Killer Bee is on. Who are we going to?
My log has a message for you.
Yeah.
Dropping the Twin Peaks
I
references.
know, right?
Well,
Yeah.
It's just like the 6th time a Twin Peaks reference has been dropped to me today. My log will have something to say
Must
about
be
this.
Yeah.
All right, since no one's deciding, I'm going to say we're going to bounce over to Octanode. So thank you all for joining us. Really appreciate it. And let me type that in. Octanode. Rating starting over. Invalid username. Cool. I misspelled it. I know what I'm doing. Are you okay? With that, have a good night, everybody.